All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. This is Kai Deering for a weekly episode of On the Fly with Kai. I can't believe it's episode number 24 in our second season. And today is already June 3rd, 2021. I'm not sure where the year went to, but I've been having a lot of fun meeting some amazing folks that are bringing some great tips, tricks, and hacks to a lot of our entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurs. But this is a great place to come and learn and figure out, navigate some of those weird waters out there. And today, I am just absolutely thrilled to be able to bring to you kind of a new friend of mine here, a new business friend. And I love what she's up to. So when you meet somebody that resonates with you right away, you know they got to be on your show. And so I know many of us have had limiting beliefs about, money, and we have these patterns that keep showing up in our life. And so I love the fact that she's out there leading a charge for the last 17 years, really helping people have a relationship with money where you're not repelling it, right? Where your energy and your spiritual practice are actually increasing your wealth creation, and to make it not a stress and a burden, but make it really exciting. And so I'm excited to introduce you to the Reverend Andrea Scott Brown here today on our show. And I know that we've had an opportunity to chat a couple of times, but I'd love folks to know a little bit about who you are and how you ended up on the journey that you ended up. And you're sitting here today with me.
Awesome. Thank you, Kai. It's so awesome to be on your show today. I'm thrilled to be here. My story is I named my work The Audacious Path for a reason, because that is how I kind of describe my journey and my transition through many different types of work and many different types of living life. So my story really began when I started thinking about this idea of coaching. I didn't allow myself to go to coaching school for 10 years. And that was almost 17 years ago. So it's been a journey, that in and of itself, because I love coaching. I love working with people. I love seeing that light bulb moment, those ideas when that transition of life hits a person and like, oh, wow, I can see it in a new way. And I love doing that with money, because that first journey with me doing coaching, I was loving it. And my then husband got laid off from work. And I was initially super excited to see him be able to do his thing, right? He's an amazingly talented graphic designer and illustrator. What a great way for him to have his shingle out in the world. And then what I found out was my head was in the sand, because fast forward a little bit, I found out we were $30,000 in debt plus our house. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a huge eye opener for me. But I said, okay, I'm going to focus on this. I'm taking care of it. It is not on my watch, is basically what I said. So it was time for me to really pay attention and see what's going on with our money. Within a year, I got us completely out of debt, except for the house. Unfortunately, our marriage didn't last through all that, not just because of money, although people say like the number one reason for divorce is money. It was actually more than that, but it was a time and transition in my life where I needed to take responsibility for myself and be able to move forward. So I was transferred to a new job. I got divorced in 31 days. I'm 5 days later, I moved with my kids halfway across the country and set up a whole new life for myself. And so that was part of my audacious path. It doesn't have to be that way for everybody. I don't recommend it, although, sometimes a clean slate is helpful. Sometimes when we create that experience in our lives, it's for a good reason. But then in next 2 years later, I did it again. I moved back halfway across the country with my kids and landed where I am now in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I love it. It's all of my experiences have brought me to where I am now. And that audacious path has only fueled my fire to be able to help other people create a really strong financial foundation so that they can do the same thing. And that's what I was able to do in setting myself up, getting completely out of debt. I was able to buy my own house, bought and sold a couple of houses, was able to make sure that I was able to take care of myself and my family. And that was just super important to me. So those basic foundational ideas around how do we manage our own money and how do we get our head out of the sand? Like, how do we make life transitions easier? Because we're always going through change. And that's the thing that is kind of the foundation of all the work that I've ever done. Change is the only constant. We all know that. We certainly have experienced it over the last year or two, right? And so using change as a catalyst to create the life that you truly want, that's my purpose. Like that is the foundation for let's get our money in place. Let's handle that, have that strong financial foundation so that everything else is exactly how we want it to be.
Yeah, and things aren't always happening to you, they're happening for you. You just can't see it in the moment, right?
Absolutely.
And I feel like 17 years ago was when coaching came on the scene in a big way. So you were definitely a pioneer out there leading the charge for sure. And thank you for your authenticity. And that really helps people because there's so many people that are, especially right now, facing into some challenges. And it's important to know that there's a light at the end of the other side of that. So I appreciate that as well. So there's been, I know that you've probably zigged and zagged and done a lot of different things. You're really focusing, like you said, on helping people have that, foundation and relationship with money and some tools. But I know that you're not like a financial investor. So let's address that for the audience who are like, okay, great. Well, what do I do with my money? That's not what we're talking about here, because there's a lot of people that can like tell you what to do with the money. You're going to talk about how to have a relationship with money. So let's talk about those two distinctions and how that works, so people understand.
Sure. So I won't tell you what to do with your money. It's more about learning what you want to do and how you want to use your money. And so I don't do investing, and I don't help people on that side of life. I'm not a financial investment guru. I am a person who found it super important to change my relationship with money and help others do the same. And so what that means is, how do you create that really strong financial foundation? Like, what's first the mindset? We talk a lot about mindset and what are the blocks in the way. And I don't like to focus on the blocks because what you focus on expands. So we focus on where you want to go, what's the direction that you want to go with your relationship with money, and then what are the tactical, practical steps in order to manage that money to then create the future now. That's what I look for in how to advance, like how to continuously improve, how to use change as the catalyst. And these are all kind of words that we've used, but I feel like everywhere we are, we're at any point in time, we're at a plateau. And at that point, you get to then increase your knowledge, increase your activity level, or increase your awareness to be able to improve both your relationship with money, your relationship with life, your focus and clarity about what it is that you truly want to do in this world, and how do you define your audacious path? So let's get you there.
Yeah. So what was if someone's really drowning right now, like in that debt that you're talking about, what would be some practical, like first steps? Like, what would you say would be a couple of 3 things that somebody could do? Because I think a lot of our viewers right now, maybe their businesses haven't been going really great. Maybe they've, racked up some debt. Maybe their PPP money's gone. What would be some great couple of quick first steps to just start implementing so that you're going to be able to get out of it at some point? Because I've been there,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So the very first thing is to stop and notice. That's it. You stop and notice and you become aware, because unless you know that there is something to change, you won't change. So what the habits that we've created around money and everything, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. and so stopping and noticing and take a big deep breath. Like, I know I have been there. When I found out about this huge debt that we had, it was completely overwhelming. I understand that. But when we stop and take a breath, and what I actually recommend to clients is that you literally physically stand up and take a step back just one step back to indicate to yourself that you are now the observer. And so you get to be the observer of your whole own life. And what you get to then notice what's going on in my mind. What am I thinking? What's going on in my heart? Or what am I feeling? What is going on around me? If you're in a situation where you're in a room with other people, that's okay. Just stop and notice. What are other people doing? What's happening right here, right now in this moment? Because the pattern of the head in the sand, the pattern of, oh, if I ignored it, it'll go away. All of those things don't help us move forward. It's in the moment, understanding that I am going to take 100% responsibility about where I am right now. That's the only way that we can move forward and make the difference.
Wow. You talked a lot about how money is energy, and I'd love for you to kind of expand on that, because I think that's a new concept for most people. So maybe you could share a little bit about your philosophies on money, energy, spirituality, all that piece.
Sure.
Awesome.
So money is a tool. Like, money is the thing that we use to pay our bills, to get the new clothes, to do the things in life that we want to do. So number one, it's a tool. It's also energy. And I believe them both to be the case equally. Money is energy because on one level, when money, paper money and coins were first created, there was this treasury, in the United States of America, where, go to Fort Knox and you could see all the gold that backed the paper money that we have, right? So if on a very practical level, that doesn't exist anymore. All of our money is not backed by a piece of gold somewhere. It just isn't. So that's very tactical, practical on the earth plane, that it's money now is it's a concept more than it is a tangible piece of gold or value, because it's the value that we put into it. But in addition to that, it's also energy, because energy is the flow of life in and through and around our being. So in and through, as us, we use that when we are attracting. So we're getting a little bit more metaphysical here. What we attract into our lives is how we're resonating energy wise, like in ourselves. When we're resonating at a certain level, we match at a certain income level. When we increase our own vibration, then we can bring that external experience or tangible monetary and physical kind of things in our life. So let's see, if you've probably known people who have worked in a job and then they decided that they're going to have their own business.
Yes.
So they have a salary in their business, or in their job, and then they leave that job and then they have income or revenue in their business. How often do you find that they kind of hit that plateau or that level of okay, that's the ceiling of their revenue generation? Even though, as everybody knows, as an entrepreneur, you can make as much money as you want, right? It's limitless. We only limit it by ourselves. So that's an example of how we're resonating at a certain income level and we match it externally. So that's just one way in which you can see the evidence of that energy that we're producing, and then the energy flow and matches with money. And one example of money as energy.
Yeah. And I think that it's kind of the law of the lid, like whatever you're used to, you're going to, as soon as you go beyond that, you're going to panic and come back down in income because it was outside of your comfort zone. So wherever you're comfortable is typically where you're going to stay. It's very, very interesting. So I know that there's, this is a very different modality from coaching than a lot of folks have. And so how would somebody go about, like, number one, how would they identify that they needed help? So aside from just being in debt, like, what are some trigger points? I think I asked you, like, how do I know, what am I listening for to hear that's a good referral for you? Because I think some people don't even know that they don't know, right? So it's that blind spot. So obviously if you're in debt, you need a coach, obviously, whatever. So tell me a little bit about, when would you say, okay, that's it. I've got to do something.
A couple of indicators are I make too much money to be this broke. Like if you hear somebody say that money is coming in and going out, and there's no mechanism to say, okay, wait, I'm okay to keep some of that. I'm okay to acquire wealth. I'm okay to live at a level in where it's not the stress anymore. It's not, money doesn't have to cause stress. Money doesn't have to be either the pain or the focus or it's not the thing. Like, life is the part that we want to live life. We don't want to just focus on the money, even though I focus on the money a lot. but that's only a means to an end. It's not the end. Like, some people say, okay, I want to have $1 million. Okay, great. Why? What's the purpose? Well, I just want to have $1 million. Okay, like, you can be a millionaire, and that's great. And what do you want to do with that? Or how do you want to be? Or how do you want to live? That's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah. So if somebody, and this is what I've always said too, if somebody is succeeding financially in whatever profession, let's say you're a chiropractor, a chiropractor in the same city, on the same street, a few blocks away, is earning multiple millions of dollars with the same clients, what is the difference there if you're not? I mean, if someone else is doing it, you can do it too. And it's really up here.
Exactly.
Right. And so I feel like that is such good advice, because I do know people that, make up multiple six figures and they're just broke at a different level, for sure.
Right. Another person who could really benefit from talking to a financial coach or somebody who can help them on that path is somebody who is thinking, I do want to start a business. And how do I create that path for myself to feel okay? Like, I'm not jumping off a cliff in order to do that. So maybe it's the side hustle initially. Maybe it's, learning how to look at money differently before you take the leap to dive into that entrepreneurial effort. Or maybe it's expanding what you currently have, but in a new way. So when we talk about getting all of your ducks in a row, I mean, I don't use that very often, but it just came to mind. But how do you create the systems in place? How do you systematize and make your money not be the focus, not be the issue? But there's a time in which we can work together to create that foundation.
And I really love this kind of conversation, because a lot of it surrounds language. And you and I talked a little bit about language. Like, sometimes we need to watch what we say to ourselves and what kind of questions we're asking ourselves with regards to money. So why don't I ever have it? So can you speak a little bit about that manifesting piece of it? Because I feel like that is a big challenge. And a lot of times we learn that from our parents, because our parents didn't talk about money, right? They didn't bring it up at the dinner table. I think we're now seeing that more with kids, but we're not teaching it in high schools anymore. We used to teach us how to balance a checkbook. I mean, I had a VA, or not a VA, but a personal assistant. And she didn't know how to write a check. I was like, will you cut a check for me? I'll sign it. And she was like, how do I do? I'm like, oh my word, we're in trouble.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the very first thing that I suggested that we do on this process is notice, right? That we'd stop, pause, take a breath, and just notice what's happening around. Well, when we talk about this idea of, I just lost my train of thought in the question.
Okay, so we're talking about language, money,
Language, thank you.
manifesting it and not manifesting it, repelling it actually.
Right. So the next step, when you're just noticing everything, like noticing how you're feeling and thinking and what's going on in the moment, the next part is to notice your language. What are you actually saying in your everyday life? How many people have you ever noticed, or do you say yourself, I can't afford this?
It's a good one.
It's really basic, right? A lot of people say I can't afford this, and yet when you stop and really think about it, of course you can. Of course you can. It's a decision. If it's a small thing, you could decide not to pay your rent or your mortgage, and I'm sure that you would have the money to have it. Can you afford it? Yes, you can. Now, do you choose to? Do you want to? Is it in your best interest? Maybe not. I would not recommend that you not pay your rent or your mortgage and then go buy a new outfit. Like they're not it not suggested, right? But and it's all about decisions. I mean, so that's just one example. And I talk a lot about your money story. What is your money story? And as you said, we get our money story from usually our parents, our grandparents, our society. What are the billboards or the ads that we're seeing now on our phone constantly? These things we're bombarded with all of these ideas about how we have a relationship with money, what we do in our lives, what we should have, what we should like shoulding all over ourselves. and even using the word, I have to do this, I have to do that. I recommend eliminating that. I recommend eliminating any have tos in your life and decide for yourself, I get to do this, or I would like to do this, or I don't want to do this, and don't do it.
Yeah, it was funny. My first job out of college, I was at a financial institution, and it was sort of for like last chance, right? Like this is the last place you're going to get a loan from, and we would, save them. We'd combine all their debt, put it in their house, refinance their house, and save them $500 a month. And the next day they'd show up to make their payment, and their brand new $400 a month Cadillac, and you just be like, what? So it was just really interesting to see, like, I just never wanted to be my client, right? Like, I'm like, whatever, I just don't ever want to be one of my clients because, I think there are patterns, like you said, those, but those are the extreme cases.
Right.
And they probably can't even afford a financial coach, right? I mean, you keep putting yourself in a bigger and bigger hole. So my question is, like, what if somebody is in debt? How do they find the money, to hire somebody like you? Because that's a very interesting, I'm like, just thinking in my head, if they're challenged, how are they going to be able to afford this?
Well, if you're truly in debt and you have no money, I would not recommend hiring me or anyone else like that. It is a decision. If you are feeling like you're the person who I make too much money to be this broke, like it's just a matter of negotiating where you're going to spend your money, and you decide that I'm drawing a line in the sand as opposed to the head in the sand. I'm drawing a line in the sand and saying, okay, I'm done with this way of handling my money. Then it could be the best investment you've ever made in your life.
Yeah.
Because it turns everything around. You're only going up from here. You've made a decision, and it's just a matter of keeping your head on straight, making the steps, taking one step at a time and really making systematic changes. And then you're not going to have to question anymore, can I afford anything? Because you're going to have a path and a direction and a purpose for using your money as a tool in your life so that all of the things on your audacious path come to fruition.
I love the name of your company too, Audacious Path. You're right. It is all about, if you have enough, and you should have enough, it's all now about priorities and how empowering. I mean, it's disempowering to say, I can't afford that.
Right.
It's empowering. It makes it, like you said, more energetically fun to be able to have a better relationship with the money that you do have. And until you get that together, those financial kind of healthy habits, and reduce that financial stress, life's going to be a chore. It really is. It's going to be a chore. So kind of in closing, are there, I know we're going to talk about how to engage with you, but are there any great, I always ask my guests at the end, if there's any great resources, like a great book, your favorite resource for somebody to kind of get a better handle on their relationship with their finances? Is there anything you could recommend? I know we're going to put some resources from your site in here at the end, but anything, resources that you could recommend for folks?
Well, somebody who's in debt, I started learning a little bit more about how to get out of debt from Dave Ramsey. He's a very well-known financial coach, and his view on how he teaches things is very Christian based. It's very conservatively based, and you can take that or leave it. I'm not recommending that part of it, but the tactical ways in which he talks about getting out of debt and really looking at your money are valuable, really valuable. And he has a regular, I believe it's still daily 3-hour show that there's lots of information and lots of tips and tricks to learn from there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a podcast too, but that's a great recommendation. So folks, if you want to start somewhere, maybe start getting an education there and take it, like you said, for whatever it's worth on the personal views on there. But it's sad to see such smart people suffer because they made choices or their relationships are with their money is not right because of whatever reason.
And it's okay. Like wherever you are today, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you just start to make different choices from moving forward, because whatever is done in the past is done. You get to now make a new decision. Sometimes not making a decision is the decision. And so it's more about consciously moving forward, purposefully taking responsibility for yourself, your money, your family, and then learning from there.
Right. And I mean, you just want to make sure that exactly what you said, because if you always are thinking in the past and you've made mistakes, that's where depression hits in, right? Like you want to be in a good headspace. It's living in your future is really and that's where we need to live a lot of times to make sure that, we can make changes in our lives. So I really appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Living in the moment, living in the now with an eye towards where you're heading, that's going to get you there, propel you forward towards that end result for sure.
So in the few minutes we have remaining, I've really enjoyed our conversation. You're super sharp. And I like the energy, speaking of energy, that you have and the non-judgmental part of it, because that's important too. You want to make sure that you can be truthful, authentic, because that's the only place it's going to start from, as you said. How would they engage with you if the audience said, I'd like another conversation. I'd like to learn a little bit more about some tools and things that you have. I know you got a lot of great freebies and things like that too. How would you like for this audience and the tribe to engage with you if they need help?
Well, here, I'll give you a couple things. So if you go to audaciouspath.com, you can learn a little bit more about me and what I am doing. So you can start there. And I have a free gift for those who really want to start on this financial journey. If you go to audaciouspath.com/having level, this is a tool that you can use to what I call raise your having level, or what do you allow yourself to have in your life? And you could look at it on face value and say, okay, it's more like a budget. Well, it's not really a budget, but it's a look at where do you spend your money today? What do you need to have in your life? Like what do you need in order to cover all your expenses? And that's not just the basics, but actually, what do you live on? What do you need in your life? And then the third thing to look at is, what is it that you desire? So if we're expanding this to include absolutely everything that you really want in your life, this gives you a tool to go through all of the different expenses in your life to say, okay, this is my ultimate goal. This is where I'm headed. This is what I want to see. So it's a great place to start.
Love it. And I know you had one other resource that I was going to share about your masterclass. You want to share about that as well?
Sure. Coming up at the end of the month on June 30th, we are going to have a masterclass and talking. It's going to be all about money mindset and money energy. So a colleague and I are going to be doing this together. I'm going to talk about the money mindset piece. She's going to talk about the energy of money and increasing our overall relationship with money. So I would highly recommend that you jump on that, get to know a little bit more. We've had a limited time here today, and I'll give you more tips and tricks there too.
It was great. Well, thank you, Reverend Andreas Scott Brown. I'm going to go ahead and let everybody know that we just appreciate you being on the show, and we have somebody great for you every single week that shares some real life practical tips to be a better entrepreneur or start being one. So tips, tricks, and hacks for the entrepreneur. Take care, take charge. We'll see you over the top. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.